We're here for the podcast. This is a special podcast. This is our NFL draft extravaganza. We had to bring in a little bit of help. The one and only kids, he's back. Crazy Uncle Nick.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Nick Shulo, big time.
No. You can't say his last name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He has warrants.
We'll edit that part out. No, we won't. Anyway, he's a big West Virginia fan, big college football fan. We need to bring in some outside perspectives on the draft. But the draft is obviously a huge topic. We're going to break it up into some different scenarios. Eric, what do we have?
Well, let's start with some of the a couple of controversial picks. There was Bruce Irvin. I'm not sure what school he's from.
I've heard a rumor he's from West Virginia. Let's go Mountaineers.
Yes, that guy. And then there's also the Washington Redskins, who drafted a franchise quarterback with the second pick in the draft, who they spent all of 3 number 1 picks to get, to then turn around in the 4th round and draft another cornerback. Rumors are RG3 will now be traded for a 3rd round pick next year.
They're going to trade him for the punter, the 3rd round punter.
Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars did draft to the 3rd round punter. Oh, wait. If anyone's been listening to our podcast from the very beginning, I said that Blackman would be going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said it in the first podcast. I was spot on. I deserve credit for that.
Kudos to you. If only you were right about anything else.
I mean, I'm also right about Matt Ryan. I don't know if you remember that. Never.
We'll wait until the end of this year and see how it is.
Yeah, whatever.
You get housed every time we have that discussion. All right. So let's talk about Bruce Irvin. This is one of those instances where you really wish that we could have had some foreknowledge here, that we could have known a couple weeks ago that the Seahawks were going to do this, because if you thought that Kuiper got upset about the Tannehill pick, no, he's really upset about the Bruce Irvin pick. And the kind of great back and forth that we had between Kuiper and McShay on Tannehill would, I think, have been even better on Bruce Irvin. So, anyway, for those of you who are not familiar with this concept, Irvin's taken by the Seahawks. He is, by all accounts, a good player in many ways, but has some off-the-field issues and has some issues of questionability in terms of size.
That boy has some major red flags.
Yes. That is the phrase that will be associated with him, at least until he's gotten through a season or two. So we thought we'd take the perspective of the Mountaineers fan. Nick, what do you have to say about the Bruce Irvin pick?
Bruce Irvin's an interesting pick at 15. He's a phenomenal athlete. One of the best in terms of combine performance, 3-cone drill, 20-yard shuttle, 40-yard dash. Strong athletic pick, but maybe a little early. I expect good things from Bruce Irvin, though. It's a fast division. You need folks that can get after the quarterback, and in that division, there are some quarterbacks that have a little mobility, and Bruce Irvin could prove to be an asset there.
Look, the tape that I saw on Irvin, because if you're a Falcons fan, one of the things you saw across a lot of boards were the Falcons maybe taking a run on Irving in the 3rd round. There was talk he could have went in the 2nd round. If you just look at his tapes, he gets off the ball fast. And if there's one word to describe him, it's speed and his high impact. He crushes people when he hits them. But in West Virginia, I don't remember if there was anything in West Virginia that he did that caused any additional problems. There was stuff before West Virginia. As soon as the football season ended, he gets back to Atlanta, has another problem, as I get text, had another problem with the law. And subsequently now he'll be going to Seattle. Seattle's a great place for him because at worst he maybe catches a fish, but ultimately I don't think he gets into like the nightlife issues he would have or any other issues if he would have stayed in Atlanta. But there is no reason to take him at 15 unless you got tricked by some other team that says we're going to take him in the 1st round. But that pick makes no sense to right there.
Nick, do the West Virginia folks have something to say about this kid's off-the-field issues that might make Seattle fans feel better?
He didn't make off-the-field news well in West Virginia. He made news for being a sack machine. He had something like 22 and a half sacks in 2 years.
Right.
But no, and compared to some other folks that have come out of West Virginia, he really didn't make news off the field.
Well, it's funny to me that obviously the off-the-field issues are what they are. We'll see whether or not. I think Eric's right about Seattle being a good fit in terms of not having the kind of nightlife problems. Although if you're an NFL player, you can always find trouble. But what confuses me about this pick is I don't know what position he starts at. A lot of the scouts even think he's under bulk for an outside linebacker, let alone a down lineman. And obviously Pete Carroll's a good coach. Obviously they must have some plan for what they're going to do. I've heard rumors they're going to make him a down linebacker. I don't know that a guy his size can possibly be an effective pass rusher in the NFL from a down lineman position. And if that's not what he's playing, that's a fundamentally different position than he played in college.
I think he can bulk up to about 230 and play linebacker.
Well, he's 245 allegedly.
Allegedly. He didn't look 245.
No.
Nothing on him looks 45-ish. No. He looks like he's about 216. I mean, even if he looks small.
Yeah, even if he's 245, he's got to put on probably 40 pounds to even bulk up to the size that some of these slimmer outside rushers are who play at the down position.
No, if he stays at 245, he can play outside linebacker.
No, I'm talking about being a lineman.
Oh, lineman. No. That's a mistake.
He's no lineman in the NFL.
Yeah.
No. Just not big enough.
We'll see what Seattle does with him. I think that's very interesting. If he's an OLB for them, then we'll see whether he can still. That's a really different position.
If he comes out and has, I can't remember the rookie name that played for the 49ers, but comes out, gets 14 sacks, creates havoc, doesn't get into trouble. This is a perfect pick because the numbers and the production makes sense. If he does not have any of the off-field stuff, he is easily a top 15, maybe top 10 pick because no one can stop him when he starts to rush.
I'm not sure about top 10. This is a guy that doesn't have a natural position in the NFL that fits in with what he really played in college. So
if he was a 3-4 outside linebacker, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but you have to admit that's a really different position.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Can we agree he has good size for an outside linebacker?
Well, he has fantastic speed.
Right.
And if he's going to be an outside linebacker, I even think your estimate's a little undervaluing, Eric. I think if he has a 10 or 12 sack season and he stays out of trouble, this could be a good long-term pick. It's really hard for a rookie to have more sacks than that, even especially from the linebacker position. And if he has a 10-12 sack season, he keeps his nose clean, he looks like he's developing, then you won't hear as much about this pick next year. But if he can't find a natural position, if he can't make the transition, if he doesn't bulk up like they think he should, and or he has off-the-field issues, then people are going to wonder what Seattle is thinking.
Let's also remember at the outside linebacker post, he's got some skills with the ball. Out of high school, he was getting recruited as a safety. And while that wasn't what he ended up playing in West Virginia, there are those ball skills there. So at outside linebacker, even if you can't get 10 sacks, even if you're getting 7 or 8, you can grab an interception and make some solid tackles. Might not be a bad pick for the Hawks.
Yeah. If he doesn't get in trouble and learns and basically is a pass rush specialist to start, he'll create enough havoc to where that pick will make sense. However, that's a tough one. I mean, we'll probably get into this later. Like Janoris, for example, Janoris Jenkins, the kid who played for the University of Florida, who Neil Blackman knows a lot about, was kicked off the team. He was easily a top 15 pick had it not been for his off-the-field stuff, and he didn't go into the second round. So for the Seahawks to take this kid, who kind of no one knew about, was a little bit off the radar, it is puzzling. But,
Well, and if you're a Seahawks fan, you've got to look at your whole draft and think to yourself, we have picked, in all the picks that we had, 2 offensive players. Everything else is a defensive player. The 2 offensive players you pick are a quarterback, who I don't know whether or not he's going to even have a shot at starting, and a running back that you didn't pick into the 4th round. And it's not like you look at the Seahawks and say, wow, that offense is so powerful that they can afford to go defense only in the draft. So I don't know. I think he'll have to be a pretty good player to justify this. All right, what's our next person that we're talking about?
The next person is the Washington Redskins. I think we all agree RG3 makes sense at number 2. Like, who else would they have taken? Right?
Sure.
Ryan Tannehill? No. So RG3 is the franchise quarterback. And there's nothing that says you are the franchise quarterback then drafting another player with your third pick in the draft. In the 4th round, they take Kirk Cousins, who is NFL ready, from a size, arm strength standpoint. But that pick makes no sense. Maybe you get something to help, maybe a receiver. Shanahan loves the running backs. Why you pick Kirk Cousins baffles me. Because Kuiper's right, and I agree. If RG3 struggles in the preseason and Kirk Cousins comes out and is on fire, how do you sell that to the fans that we're going to put Kirk Cousins on the bench and start RG3. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, well, it's a potential PR nightmare. You've given up all those picks for RG3. Like you said, he struggles. Or even think about this, because this happens a lot, more than people realize. RG3 doesn't look great in practice, and Cousins does look great in practice. Then what happens is you're creating a situation for their coaching staff where they have to make picks that are potentially a disaster for the organization, and it's not like Rex Grossman is the worst conceivable quarterback in the NFL. If you're concerned that RG3 has durability issues in his first year, then you pick, a veteran quarterback who isn't great, won't inspire a lot of people, but can manage the team for a couple of games. And you don't pick, like you said, an NFL-ready quarterback that is going to compete for the position.
Grossman played in a Super Bowl. Like, I understand that the Bears had a great defense, but he played in a Super Bowl.
Are you coming to the defense of Rex Grossman, Sexy Rexy?
I'm coming to the defense of what Neil Blackman would say is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think you're right though. The most difficult thing from the Redskins' perspective is the public relation issue. What happens if RG3 struggles? Is this a way to motivate RG3? What does he think about that? I'm sure he'll say all the right kind of things because he's a good kid. But look at their draft. RG3, okay.
Yeah.
And the next player is Josh Laribius, I guess is how you pronounce his name, who's a guard, right, to protect RG3. Makes a lot of sense. Then Kirk Cousins,
who's also going to listen. They're going with a 2-quarterback system. They're going to line up both quarterbacks in the backfield in the shotgun.
There you go.
And let's have some fun.
Here's a provocative statement. Let's think about the Redskins pick and let's try to defend it.
Provocative.
Neither can I. That's why we're on the radio. Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback coming out of the draft in the Big Ten. RG3 is the best quarterback in the draft coming out of the Big 12. Redskins have scored here. They've got the best quarterback in 2 strong divisions coming out of the NCAA. That's good for the Redskins.
Why? That's my question. Why?
Because Rex Grossman isn't a star. He might be a starter, but he's not a star. The Redskins need the depth, and Kirk Cousins provides that for them.
Every so often, kids.
They need the depth at quarterback?
I think so. I mean, they need the depth in a lot of places.
Here's my question: is however good, this Cousins kid is he good enough to make up for the opportunity cost that the Redskins suffer because they could have drafted a wide receiver, they could have drafted somebody else at the O-line to help out, they could have drafted another running back, they could have drafted a number of other people to help out. And instead, they draft a second quarterback.
They could have drafted a running back. Here's my thing. Some people made the comparison to what the Falcons did when they selected, Matt Schaub was in the second or third round? In the third round, when Vic was kind of established. The problem was that Vic was established. He had played 3 seasons. He was the undisputed quarterback of that team. Now, drafting a quarterback in the third round 3 years after getting Vic makes sense. If Vic gets hurt, somebody can come in and be competent enough to play the position.
And Vic has a history of getting hurt.
Had a history of getting hurt. But it wasn't like if Vic struggled a little bit in the preseason, that all of a sudden you would think that Matt Schaub was coming in to start over Mike Vick.
And in fact, and the Schaub-Vick thing actually played out exactly the way you were talking about, because when Vick was having some problems, which he periodically would, the fan base, part of the fan base, would call for Schaub to come in the game, and he never did. And the calls for Schaub to replace Vick were minor and never generated any real pressure on the Falcons franchise, whereas you could easily be in a position where it would be natural for a rookie quarterback to suffer and there would be calls for his replacement to come in. So, I don't know. I think...
It might be tough going for RG3, though, and I think that you need another alternative. If you look at the first 8 games of the Washington schedule, they play the Giants, the Steelers, the Falcons, and the New Orleans Saints. Four hard games out of the first 8.
But it's not like RG3 has a history of being hurt, and if he's going to get hurt, you don't want someone to come in that you're going to get pressured to replace him with.
But you got to have an option, and I don't know if Rex Grossman's that option.
I mean, but you bring in fine. If Rex is not the option, you bring in someone that's got experience that can be a sort of off the field mentor to RG3, and then also, potentially manage the team if RG3 gets hurt. That pick baffles me.
Is John Kitna still out there?
No, he's actually with the Cowboys.
Ah.
Look, My thing is, the best case scenario is that they do, like, if you draft someone with the intentions of developing him and trying to get a number 2 pick for him, like the Falcons did, that's a lot of wishful thinking. Like, it doesn't make sense. That pick doesn't make the team better after the draft, which is kind of what is the purpose of the draft. Now, if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm also upset because in theory, I have zero chance of being a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yep. I've gone from being someone who had a good shot to someone that has zero shot, unless, RG3 suffers some sort of terrible season-ending injury. And then the only thing that really happens to me at that point is if I play really well that season, either I'm the guy that everyone hates because I took RG3's job, or I'm the guy that they trade to another team that totally sucks. So, I mean, instead of Cousins being one of those gems that a team could find later in the draft that they actually end up using as a starting quarterback, and there are quite a few of those players if you look in the NFL who've become successful quarterbacks. There's a guy that now no longer has a shot. If I were him, I'd be upset, and if I were a Redskins fan, I'd be baffled.
Look at it this way. Here's who Washington could have picked. Joe Adams, wide receiver, Arkansas. If you follow SEC football, you know who that is. They could have had Bobby Massey, who was a tackle that I really liked in the draft, to protect RG3.
Although in their defense, a whole bunch of teams passed on Massey. Massey went way lower than anyone thought he was going to, and we still, I don't think, have figured out why. I have yet to hear.
There appears to be not any red flags on him. It doesn't make sense.
I'm not sure I believe that. When the explanation that they've been giving out on Massey is that the tape on him, there are red flags in terms of his performance. But when that kind of thing happens, somebody takes a flyer on him.
Sure.
And the fact that all of the teams decided not to take a flyer on him really makes you wonder.
They could have had Orson Charles, who's the tight end from Georgia.
Right. I was going to say, you've got to have a tight end for the rookie quarterback to have as a safety valve.
They could have had Nick Toon, wide receiver, now going to New Orleans.
Yeah. I think this is a baffling pick. I'll be interested to see what people say about it. As we get away from the draft a little bit. Were there any other picks that really stood out to